Hi, buddy. I see you brought Timothy to our podcast today.
Right?
He's looking
I
around.
don't know. I don't know what it's talking about here, but we're talking about women and mental health, so I don't know. Oh,
The way that the sheen is behind you, it looks like you're in a lake.
I'm almost in a lake. It is probably the worst weather that I've had in 10 months. It is pouring rain. The mosquitoes are the size of 747s, and yeah, if I look like I'm in a lake, I might actually be.
Yeah. I was driving on the highway this morning and you could not see anything. And everybody was merging into everybody. And
Yeah. I
it was
know
like,
it's welcome to Canada. Welcome to Canada.
welcome.
I know that we have listeners and viewers from different areas. And I don't want to make light of this given what has happened in Texas, but yeah, this is not a stellar point for Canada right now. Thunderstorms, lightning, all kinds of stuff. So we're doing the best that we can.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to tell us a little bit about who we have in our waiting room?
Yeah, so an inspiration to me. We have not spent time together, but I became part of Nicaragua school build in large part because of her. And I just think that she's like truly an entrepreneurial genius. And then she also had some difficult times recently and then decided to do a radical thing to build a house in Costa Rica. And I think that anybody from Canada who knows Equator Coffee is going to understand the brand associated with Amber. And I'm absolutely delighted to talk to her about mental health today.
Awesome. Okay. Well, let's bring her in.
Okay.
Started. Hold tight. So everyone, today we are joined by Amber Hall, and you may not know it, but many of you have been probably tasting her work all of these years. She owns a Canadian-based coffee company called Equator Coffee, which I love. And together with her husband, this entrepreneur is also a philanthropist. I can never say that word, philanthropist. And if you love Costa Rican coffee, you'll love the project. This innovator is completing and has completed. So we're also going to talk about your work in Nicaragua, where Timothy first came to know of you. So welcome, Amber Hall. We are really happy to have you.
Thank you so much. It's nice to be here.
I learned about Amber through the amazing people, and we were raising money in Nicaragua to build schools with our friend John Tam.
Yes.
And gosh, I heard about this woman who was an entrepreneur, a leader. She was helping us with building these schools. I went down to Nicaragua and worked on two of them. And like I truly felt, Amy, that Amber, I know I'm speaking in front of you, but I truly felt that you were an inspiration to so many entrepreneurs and particularly women entrepreneurs. And then you started to talk a little bit on social media about mental health related to um, diagnoses and things. So thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
What country are you in right now?
I'm currently in Canada, which is where I
Okay,
love to
Canada.
be in the summer. Summer is beautiful here. So, yeah.
We don't
Yeah,
have to
no,
run away.
it is.
I say we don't have to run away in the summer. It's
No, exactly. Yeah. I actually don't even mind winter. It's my husband that has the big problem with winter. So, for the
uh,
sake of our relationship, we look to winter elsewhere. So,
maybe I can work that out in my relationship because I hate winter. He's not a big fan. We just stay indoors. We kind of are a little bit of a hermit in the winter. Too much.
I
Too
and Amber, just so you know, I was like swimming with Amy's daughter yesterday on her beautiful beachfront property. So she's not suffering, my friend. She's not suffering.
Good, good,
I
good.
didn't say I was suffering. I'm just saying I'm cold.
And I'm out there like ankle deep with your daughter. Amber, I have so many questions I want to ask you, but we're gonna start with um being an entrepreneur. I mean, anybody that knows Equator Coffee, particularly in the National Capital Region of Canada, um, that is a bold move.
No
And
intended.
and it's your entire family that's involved in this,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it really has been. Yeah,
Yeah.
we
How was
started.
that for you to do a bold move, like a bold freaking move?
Well, actually, we started 20 years ago now, and at the time I was just teaching high school, and my husband was the one jumping in. So I supported the family for the first few years before it actually started to make any money, and then jumped in myself with 2 feet after we started having kids, and decided that we wanted the flexibility of me being able to be home, which was kind of half true. I was often at work and had lovely ladies that were like grandmothers looking after my kids at home, but it gave me a lot of flexibility compared to, a 9 to 5 typical teaching job. And there were a lot of leaps of faith, like going back, not choosing not to go back to school once maternity leave was over, and trusting the income was going to be there, even though it really wasn't at that moment. And yeah, there were lots of moments of, expanding when we couldn't really afford to, and, putting our kids on the bank's balance sheet when you sign off your guarantees and say, well, my kid is owned by the bank now. If I ever fail, I'm going to lose this child. That
Wait,
was
is
our
that a thing? Should I look into that?
exactly.
To look
No, but
into
you
that.
just all those, guarantees and things you have to sign when you're taking those extra steps to grow. And but every step of the way, it's been challenging, but it's really good. And obviously, we've had failures along the way too. I could share about those, but more successes than failures by a long shot, and an amazing group of people now that really make things run well without a ton of my time and attention, really.
Was it stressful to be an entrepreneur and put it all on the line?
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. Like, and Craig and I are both really not highly stressed people, where we have a pretty high stress tolerance, high risk tolerance. Um, and I think a lot of that is a faith thing for us, because we just kind of trust that it's going to work out in the long run, and don't stress the details. But there's certainly times when, you can't pay the bills from month to month, or there's just human resource issues. Key people have to move on for one reason or another, and you're left with a big hole, and you got to be the one to step in and fill it. Um, that's happened several times along the way. And just changes in the marketplace, COVID, there was just lots of times where I, as the kind of human resource person on the team, would carry the weight of a lot of people, particularly, I would say, through COVID. Everybody who's just trying to make sure they're going to survive. And as a business, you have to stay open with all these new rules, but the income's not there. You want to keep people employed. So yeah, lots of stresses, but also just having faith along the way that it was going to work out. So.
When you're working through those types of stresses, do you have anything that helps? Do you have any like self-care coping mechanisms? Do you lock your husband in a closet because he's stressed?
Yeah, there's a few things that we have in our family what we call a coffee break, but it
Yeah.
means we don't talk about coffee.
That's pretty big. I like
Equator Coffee.
that.
Yeah. And my favorite thing in the world is a massage. So, every 2 weeks I go and have a massage. Um, my faith honestly is a huge thing. Like we are believers and go to church, and just trusting in the provision that comes, and knowing that's going to be there whether Equator's there or not. I'm going to be cared for. That's a huge part of it for us. And then just a ton of support from family and friends. We've got a really amazing network of people that encourage and support us along the way.
How's
So,
it? I
sorry,
was
go
gonna-
ahead, Amy.
How's it been working with your husband? Like you can tell us. It's just us.
Well, actually, that was the I guess 3, 4 years ago, big challenge. We I was carrying a lot of stress that I didn't even identify as that. It was just like, you know, kind of at the point where I've been giving and giving and giving. And if you're Enneagram, I'm a 2. If you're looking at attachment theory, I'm a pleaser. So I'm like always concerned about everybody else's needs and trying to meet them. And at some point, it was just like I was at capacity. And I created myself this little, what I would call my creative outlet, which for me was quilting. And I would just come home from work and I'd disappear into my little sewing room and whip up a quilt. I probably made that year something like, I don't know, 30 to 50 quilts in one year. And I was oblivious and happy, but my husband was really not. He was like, "Where's my wife gone?" Um, and I knew he knew I was carrying a lot of stress, but at one point he kind of raised his arm and said, "Wait a minute, something's wrong here." And I don't even remember. I think that was maybe 2021. And so together we kind of stepped back and took a look and realized, wait, this is maybe not that healthy. Even though I'm having fun, it's really not healthy. And so I started to pursue some medical help. Actually went on a drug for some weight loss and mild depression. That started to kind of balance things out a little bit. But then that fall, I had this really major illness that was like a virus that turned into hepatitis and pneumonia and mono simultaneously. And then, then we
That
had,
sounds like a horror
it was
virus.
horrid. Yeah.
Oh my.
Through that and ignore it all and do a family wedding. And then that following fall was diagnosed with breast cancer. So even though we were trying to manage it and doing okay at it, there were just lots of challenges. And so that diagnosis of breast cancer for me was like okay, I have to make some changes here, take some stresses off. I started to look at everything only I knew how to do at work and trained other people to do it, trusted other people to do it. That's often the challenge is you can train someone, but do you trust that they'll do it the way you would want to see it done? And so that was November of 2023 that shift happened, and then had another family wedding in May, and breast cancer surgery the week after that. So from kind of December till May was just transition mode for me, changing systems, getting other people trained, um, you know, processes and procedures in place that had never really been written down before. Um, and yeah, I had to make a lot of changes.
There's so
So,
much with your I was gonna say there's so much like those process and procedures. We have SOPs in my business, right? Like
Yes, yeah. Mhm.
creating those documents is
Yes,
ridiculous.
I
And,
know.
and then if you didn't have those or they weren't up to speed when you went through all that, that would have
Yeah,
been really weighty, I would guess.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Because
Yeah.
they're also just terrible to do. Like it's
They
like
are.
pretty much write down all of the ways you have to do the certain task, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Especially me, because I'm the vision person. I don't like the details and I have to write down. It's like punishment for myself.
Yes, I get you.
Oh,
so what I wanted to ask the two of you is, you both have family businesses,
Mhm.
right? Like literally, if you are not at the helm, is there a plan, and how does that impact your mental health when
Mhm.
you have to step away because you need to take care of your own health care?
Yeah. Do you want to go first, Amy?
I can't even tell you I have much of a plan. I would tell you that, like, to Amber's point, like, we have all the stuff, the documents and everything like that. And I'm in the process of making sure somebody else can do what I can do, right? Which is, we've been puttering away at for a while. But like, I don't know about you, Amber, but our team's like super small. And so there's not a lot of give on our team. And
Mm-hmm.
so, you know, sometimes that stuff, if I can't do it, if I get to a point where I can't do it, it might mean it doesn't get done for a little bit, or it might mean that like one piece of it gets done, but other pieces fall. So I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we're just renegotiating what that looks like on my team because it's just me and a couple of my teammates there. But
Mm-hmm.
it's difficult because
Yeah.
it's hard to get it all out of your head, which is why I'm
Mm-hmm.
complaining about SOPs because there's
Yeah.
a reason they're there, but if you don't keep them updated, like, you know, people have to figure it out sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, how do you do
Yeah,
it?
well, for us, I think it was putting the key team members in place. We had a few people already on the team, some long-term members who herself just had her own cancer scare. Well, not scare, it was legit. She had feminine cancers and had to go through chemo and all of that. And so she finally got back in place just as I was heading out. So she was one of the people that took on a chunk of what I did. But then we hired a CEO, an amazing woman, and she came to us with tons of experience. So it was easier to train her because she had a ton of related experience already in the coffee industry and just a real crackerjack. So getting those two people in place, and then a third one specifically to our cafe human resource side of things. So that little three-person team for me is crucial, and they have stuck with us and been around now for several years, which has made my life much, much easier.
I was going to say, so then in the middle of this, you are diagnosed with cancer.
Hmm. Yeah.
And your entire family is about Equator Coffee. And I'm just going to put a plug in. They don't sponsor us, but if you have an opportunity to buy Equator Coffee, please know that it is all going to a really good place. And I love these people. I met you through the Amazing People process. I went to
Hmm.
Nicaragua, built 2 schools with school box in large part because of you. And so all of a sudden you have the brakes put on, I
Hmm.
guess.
Yeah.
Can you tell me how, as a leader of your company, that works and how that impacted your mental health?
Yeah, yeah. For me, it was definitely really challenging because I knew so many people were relying on me, not just for the my own personal responsibilities, but for the health of the company in order to keep them employed and employed well. Um, so no, it was definitely a really stressful time. I think I had to. That key of trusting other people to do it and to let things go when it's not done exactly the way that I would have done it. Um, to find those key ways that I could be involved in a minimal way, but to still give myself the confidence that I knew things were okay. Like you know, have like a month-end check-in where I look at some reports and I catch a few things, and just to give myself the confidence that everything is going okay in my absence. So I had almost a full exit, but it was kept those few pieces in place, and then otherwise I just really had to let myself focus on me for a while, focus on that health recovery and the process and appointments and ensuring my own family that everything was going to be okay. And when you don't really know, like it's just kind of yeah, it weighs heavily on you. But again, for me, that faith piece too, that trusting that even if it wasn't okay, my kids and my family are going to be looked after. Like just that was a huge part for me also.
We're going to talk in a minute about how you decided to build a home,
Mhm.
Costa Rica.
Yes.
But how are you doing now in this space now?
Yeah. I have a clean bill of health. I
Yay.
still have regular mammograms to check in on a regular basis to make sure it's all good. I still see some of those challenges that I faced beforehand creeping back in, like the perimenopause stuff, like fighting with lack of sleep and mild depression once in a while, and that tendency to want to escape into my little quilty dreamland, and but having to be there for the needs of the family and the business, and so there's definitely a balance there, and then just balancing hormones and trying to learn how to do that when there's not a ton of information
Hmm.
out there, like our regular medical system starting to talk about that more, but I don't think there's enough knowledge in the mainstream medical system to help women who are going through these challenges. So there's still, things that I'm chasing down, and a stomach issue came from the medication I'm supposed to be taking, so I can't take it, and just sort of there's a process, but overall I'm doing really well.
I'm going to point to this one because I am through it. I just turned 57 this week.
Wow. Yeah.
So I am through it, but Amy is the one in this group that talks about maybe we should be looking a little bit more about women's mental health and also their physical perimenopause and menopause health. So,
Mhm.
Amy, you're up.
I think, I mean, I feel your pain. Right.
Yeah.
And there's just not enough information on
No.
anywhere. And a lot of stuff I've had to deal with myself, you just have to dig through the internet to like figure
Yeah.
it out, which is
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then you get in trouble by the doctor because they don't want you to do that. And you're like, well, then do something about it. Like,
Yeah.
uh, and so it's so difficult. I have two questions. One is because of my work, I work in a lot of planning stuff. Um, how do you feel about, a lot of entrepreneurs, we're bred to, thought to push through all the time because that's the entrepreneur journey, honestly. It's
Hmm.
just like
Yeah.
constant.
Yeah.
Um, and that means sometimes you're running so fast that you can't remember or you don't implement SOPs and things like that. And a
Yeah.
lot of people have to do it backwards. And
Yeah.
so like did you found yourself kind of caught in that, and how do you feel about, like, I'd like to send this message out to the world of entrepreneurs, right? Because I'm a big planner to like
Hmm.
get the things in line so that you're not scrambling if
Hmm.
something happens because you don't know what that's going to be and how
Yeah.
catastrophe, like, how much
Yeah.
of a catastrophe that could be. How do you
Yeah.
feel about,
Well,
pre-plan?
that's, I mean, as soon as we started kind of walking through this, we realized we had a ton of places that had no redundancy, to use a businessy word.
Mm.
It's like there's no backup for this process or this person or this procedure. And so we started putting a lot of that in place, getting things written down that hadn't been written down. Just having a plan in place for those you know, contingencies, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And
People, it's because people never think it's going to happen to them,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And so
mhm,
they don't do it. It's always on the back burner. I mean,
yeah,
I'm guilty as well. Like
mhm,
none of us are perfect, but like if we can
mhm,
start working towards that, because I
mhm,
feel like, and tell me what your thoughts are, I feel like realizing that on top of the health stuff that's happened, then realizing, oh crap, my business might be in
mhm.
trouble because I am not being able to do that. That's just going to be more stress,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
exactly. And I think for us, recognizing as well, we have a ton of key women in our business, and they're going through the same things that I am, and so to be able to create a culture that's got some flexibility in it for
Mm,
someone to be able to go to an appointment once in a while, or to work
yeah.
4 days one week and five the next, to have that one day so that there's better mental health, or family flexibility and that sort of thing. So we've created a lot of that type of culture as well, so that we don't create a bunch of really stressed out employees who are going to go through the same things. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's been important too.
I find that
And
you have to, I
sorry,
was
go
just
ahead.
gonna say you have to be maneuverable as
Mhm.
the leader, like same with
Mhm.
us, right? You have to be maneuverable because you value the people that work with you.
Mhm.
And you, like when I created my business, that was one of the main points, is I wanted to do better than my previous bosses did, right? And how I was
Mhm.
treated. And I wanted to make a whole different atmosphere for my team. And so that's
Yeah.
like those pieces all come in line with it.
Yeah.
Um, Kim?
Well, the thing that I wanted to ask is that there's kind of like two separate areas here. Is that, of course, Amber, you wanted to keep the business, which has your family name on it.
Mhm.
But also, I noticed that you happen to build a house in a country I love. So I'm kind of wondering where the hopes and the dreams kind of mesh with
Mhm.
the fact that you had a life-altering diagnosis and
Mhm.
what that means for you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my husband and we made probably 10 years ago now, we made a 5-year plan and we wrote it down and we had, some real key pieces in it. And then we lost it. Actually, it was funny. We found it this year. We kept like, where's that plan? We should see how we're
Where's the
doing.
plan?
But we couldn't find it.
Where's the
But
plan?
it was fun when we actually looked at it because that was one of the things was to have a house in the south, to have a cottage in the north, and to have kids that were well launched, able to support family. We come from a family with a lot of pastors, actually, and pastors traditionally don't make a lot of money. So for us to be able to support
And
them,
sorry, but like
well,
that's in like Almont Armprior area that you did
yeah,
that?
yeah.
And I'm only swatting because I've got
I see
giant,
them.
huge mosquitoes
You
right
do.
now.
I
So
see them flying around.
I know, and I'm trying to get rid of them. But so that was like Almont Armprior area, right?
Yeah, yeah, Almont, Carlton Place, and yeah, yeah. So then probably 10 years ago, we bought a piece of land in Costa Rica and had this dream to build a house on it. And we've been going to Costa Rica for 22 years now. Our first trip was a missions trip to work with Indigenous people down there. And we took our little 2-year-old son and our 5-month-old with us and a whole group of young teenagers to go and do that. And we had two components. One was working with this Indigenous group through our friend Timothy, and then another little mission where we were helping them renovate a building for a children's program. And we just fell in love with Costa Rica on that trip. And so we just kept going back, and not necessarily every year, but at least every other year. And so then 10 years ago, bought this piece of land. And then 5 years ago, we bought teak from the farm that the land is on in order to use for our house. And 2 years ago, we milled the teak. So it's been a process. And then starting November of 2023, the build actually began on that house. And it's literally taken until now to complete it, but we completed enough to be able to move in last January. So it's just been, little niggly things that we've been working on since then to really finish the job. Mhm.
How did that help your mental health?
It's really good, actually. Like just the space and the place there is just it's like a different culture. People are there for the sake of their health, often for the sake of rest and relaxation, of getting kind of a change of paradigm. A lot of people end up in Costa Rica that are just trying to get out of the rat race, and so there's a beautiful Spanish culture there, but there's also a beautiful expat culture of people that are kind of looking for somewhere that's less stressful. And so we've kind of linked into both of those communities through our friends, the Spanish community, the Indigenous community, and the expat community in the area where our home is. And so yeah, it's been great. And just being able to work remotely now, that's a beautiful thing about technology, is that, any of the work I do can be done remotely, even, meetings and calls and emails and QuickBooks Online now and things like that. So it's like the ability to be in another country and still having hands-on here. It's been very, very good. And I wouldn't say there's no stress at all. Certainly there's been stress in the build process down there, building in another language and just managing different cultural expectations and things like that. Oh, excuse me. That will only last a second until Doc realizes it's
Are we
family.
waiting? Craig?
Sorry.
I was gonna say we can wave to Craig.
Yeah, I think that's him going in the door. Um, and yeah, no, it's been really, really good. And the beautiful thing is that it's not just a space for us, it's a space to share. Like our goal, both with that place and that we have a cottage property here in Canada, is to create a place where other people can benefit as well. And so we hosted a ton of people coming down and staying with us. And we're trying to rezone this cottage property to have some extra cabins for friends and family to come and enjoy. And so we don't ever want to do something just for us. It's to share and to bless other people. So yeah.
Lovely. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's one of the reasons I bought this property as well.
Mhm.
Although it's further out of town, so we don't get as many visitors. But that was the idea, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
I was just there. She doesn't, you know.
You count, but I'm just mean as a whole, the whole time we've lived here. Um,
Mhm.
Amber, what's the situation with the health, healthcare, like between, what you're dealing with and just general healthcare? Because in Canada, we have
Mhm.
a system that's, relatively good. Obviously, there's ups and downs, but like,
Mhm.
how does that relate in Costa Rica? And like, if you need something, how does that work?
Yeah, actually, it's very good there. They have a public healthcare system that's quite decent, and you pay per visit for like, if you need to see a doctor, you might pay $110 or something like that. Pharmacies are very comprehensive. Like you can actually go and speak to a doctor, get a prescription, an antibiotic or whatever, just at a pharmacy without ever going to a hospital.
Okay.
There's private hospitals that are very reasonably priced. I've never had to use one, but we priced it out at one point. We thought we were going to have a child in Costa Rica and priced out what it would cost to do that. And um, yeah, no, it's extremely reasonable and good quality healthcare.
That's good to
Uh,
know. I
yeah.
mean, we accidentally ended up in a Dominican hospital because Mike got an infection in his leg when we were on all inclusive.
Mm,
And it was an impressive hospital. Like it was
mm,
a private
mhm.
hospital, but it was
Yeah.
super impressive. A little
Mhm.
bit scary because like they had like the security guards and extra stuff like that.
Yeah.
But like it was not lovely. It was a lovely
Mhm.
system.
Yeah. Yeah. And I pay a little extra to have good health care for like a travel medical, just because of my health history now, but I haven't actually needed to use it. So that's good.
Good. That's
Yeah.
good.
Hmm.
So, Amber, can I ask you, like, as a woman business leader in a Canadian capital,
Hmm.
building a house in Nicaragua, what inspires you? Because I find that your story is truly inspirational, but I don't really understand yet where that comes from. Like, you are truly a Canadian woman leader in an entrepreneurial venture that is highly successful. Where does that come from?
Well, I think a lot of it is my husband. He's the real visionary in the family, and he's
Okay.
always, 5 years ahead with a long-term plan. And I'm like, let's just get today figured out. So I would say the push to grow and push to do more is often him.
Pray.
But
Pray.
we'll sit together and be like, okay, what's the next plan? What's the next dream? What's the next step? And then work on those things together. Or he'll, get something started, and I'm the one that's following up and finishing up and doing, which there's some resentment about occasionally, but like the house in Costa Rica. It's been all me managing that since we were there in like, February. I've done everything, and he's on to next cafe that we're going to open. And so there's like some it's just a difference in role and personality, I would say. But in terms of our inspiration and our vision, I think it's always been I guess kind of like a Robin Hood. Oh, I'm sorry about the talk. Robin Hood mentality is like, we have so much here, we have so much privilege, access to so much resource, but we also have a responsibility to help others and to give back and to do good with that. with what we've been given and what we have access to. Okay, I gotta figure this one out. Guitar, come here. He's
That's
just,
why I love
this is
the
my
show.
son's dog. My son, who's in
Bring,
Costa Rica right
bring the
now.
dog up. We love dogs.
I'll
This is
find her. One
this
second.
one. There you go. Go get the dog. Oh, buddy, there's gonna be a dog for you. Okay, you want to do the one
Is, is Buddy
and
going to
There
ask
we
the question?
go.
there we go.
There. Cute.
So, but I did want to ask you, like,
Mhm.
obviously to me, you are a business leader. Is there any advice that you could give to other women that want to be business leaders?
Um, yeah, like I think, you don't have to kind of be one thing and not another. Like for me, I really wanted to still be a mom and to actually, I mean, I always wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. It never really happened, but we did have like the flexibility for me to get home if I was needed. We had really good in-home childcare. Um, and so, it allowed me to make choices like that. And there were times when, we choose not to grow because we needed to focus on something at home and, take a break on the expansion plans because there was another more important priority. So, to sort of balance out what's important in this moment. Is it business? Is it family? Is it both? And to make those decisions at times, or to just sort of like let Craig be the face of the company and I'll just be in the background so that I actually have more flexibility at times. And then there's times where I would step up and take more of a front facing role as needed. But yeah, just to have that ebb and flow of more time, less time required to do something that really makes you proud every day. Like I think to incorporate into your business ways that you are benefiting the community, benefiting your employees, just to have that sense of accomplishment that there's more than just, and the bottom line that there's an impact being made makes makes just every day more meaningful, more interesting, I would say.
I think
And I
there's
would
also,
incorporate that from day one, kind of like we did with our business.
I love that you've put in these ebbs and flows. I think it's really important to like reiterate, right? Something
Mhm.
that you had said that, you know, I think a lot of us entrepreneurs are again taught to from, I don't know, social media or the way the world works, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
Especially women entrepreneurs that
Mhm.
like if we don't run fast and hard and constant,
Mhm.
we're not going to make it. But from what I've learned, because I've gone through my own array
Mhm.
of things, is that, one of the reasons we become business owners also is to have some ebbs and flows in our own lives that like one
Mhm.
day you could be working 2 hours and another day you could be working 12. And like that,
Yeah,
sometimes it's because that's the way it works with your life. And sometimes
absolutely.
I hit a wall at like noon and I'm like, I can't do any more of this. And I'll walk away because it's just the way that things can happen, which I feel if you can get that mindset as an entrepreneur, it's such a benefit than working in the grind of working for someone because you don't have that opportunity. You hit a wall at 12 and you're supposed
Yeah.
to be there for 8 hours. They don't care that you hit a wall. Like you're going to figure it out. And I just feel like
Yeah.
that's so, it allows us a lot more, especially when
Mhm.
we're on the creative side of it, especially when you're
Yeah.
trying to like do creative, whatever that looks like for each person's business. Like you can't drive that home. You have to be inspired. It has to come to you. You can't, learn
Yeah.
it through a big stressful process. So I think that's really important just to double highlight that that's something you've done as well. So
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
amazing.
And I'm curious, just on your point, Amy, is Amber, where did you get this wisdom? Because it took me, I was 57 a couple days ago. It
Mhm.
took me 57 years to figure this stuff out. How how did you elevate yourself to I'm going to own a very successful company. Then I'm going to have what seems to me to be a highly successful marriage. Then I'm going to build a house in Costa Rica. And then I'm going to, like, how did that happen? Like, what was the magic about that that helped you elevate yourself to your hopes and dreams?
Amber, we need your blueprint.
I want the blueprint, and I want it in like a Amy, what are you always telling me? I want it in like a Dropbox or something.
A Google
I
Drive?
yeah,
Yeah.
that thing that you're telling me about. Like it seems that you have mastered life, and I'm curious about how you have mastered life.
Well, I don't know that I would agree that I've mastered it, but I do think that I guess it's really what your priorities are. And for us, that was family and faith, even before business, for sure. And for us, faith is a big motivator for that giving back piece. To kind of, we exist not just for our own benefit, but to benefit others and to do good for the world. So that was just kind of built into us. Like we, as young people, were working in camp ministry and serving in our summers instead of making money, and training other young people in leadership development programs and things like that. So that was really just part of our DNA as people growing up, and had that example from our parents and even grandparents as well. So there was just this real rich family history of doing good and giving back. And so right from day one with our business, that was kind of why we created the company to utilize this, need of people for caffeine in the relatively rich north to benefit the relatively poor south that produces that coffee. So, fair trade and then organic for the environmental and health benefits as well. So those were kind of key pillars of our business right from the start. And then putting profit back into organizations like School Box, where we're donating 10 cents a pound to to build classrooms and to provide school supplies in Nicaragua, and getting involved at a personal level as well of that, like being on the board and taking teams of our own staff down to build classrooms. That was really key because it's just you get other people involved in the mission and the vision as well. And when they're excited about it, it's much easier to propagate it within your culture and your organization. And then to also have personal dreams, like it's okay to use that excess resource to create something for, a legacy and for family. Like this home in Costa Rica, this cottage property are things for us that, give us great joy, but can allow us to share that with other people and to feel okay about doing that and not to, feel guilty about taking some dividends out of the company and putting them towards something like that for our enjoyment and pleasure and to share. So I think it's just, and there's times when, yeah, when there's excess and there's times when there's not, but you just kind of just work from day to day, month to month, year to year with whatever is in front of you.
Amazing. Well, let's end on a happy note. That's amazing. I think that's such a nice way to look at it. And um, I wanted to thank you for coming on today. It's been such a lovely chat, dogs included. Mine are, I lock mine out because I can't. But Amber, thanks so much for coming on and sharing your story. I know it's inspired lots of our viewers, and I think that it's such an important message for entrepreneurs specifically that, you got to take care of yourself. You got to put things in place in case of emergency and take care of all of your stuff and then also live a little, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Thanks so much for coming on, Amber.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
And for all of our viewers, if you're watching us on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and get notified. If you're on a podcast platform, you can like and subscribe on there as well. And until next time, on the Inner Shift, we'll see you then.